the platform that invests in BIPOC community and culture. We believe in a world where diversity is a source of strength, awareness normalizes challenging the status quo, wellness is a collective journey, and action means equitable investment of time and resources to historically underrepresented populations.
You know, when I moved to Austin, the saying was, keep Austin weird. But there's nothing weird about displacing an entire community of people.
My dad's born in 1959. He was in the house since he was 4 years old. The house is no longer in the family. We don't own it anymore.
I've seen a lot of our historical landmarks and our Black history here in the city be altered.
St. John's was a predominantly Black community at one point.
It's a really scary thing, you know, because for a person who is born and raised here, it kind of lives like you're being stripped of who you are.
They were already starting to plan to tear down even like the hospital I was born in.
You know, this isn't the same city that we moved to 14 years ago.
It's really taken a toll on a lot of folks here in town.
As much as this city is super welcoming, I do think that there's just a lot of people that go under the radar and like their needs go under the radar or they can't find the space. And I think that DAWA works really hard to create that space for that group of people.
The acronym is Diversity, Awareness, and Wellness in Action. I chose DAWA to have that foundation of healing from the very inception of it. It's like a prayer. DAWA is medicine. It's a Swahili word that means medicine.
So DAWA has 4 areas of focus. They have the DAWA Fund, raising money, giving cash in hand to those in need.
You don't know when your next check is coming, so it was super helpful in like easing my mind and like helping me to not stress during that time, feeling supported, still feeling purposeful, and just having that as a resource and support to lean on made a crucial difference for me.
I was working for a commercial investment firm with their maintenance division, and I was kind of fed up with the way I was being treated, and that kind of came to a head one day when my boss made a significant remark, and this was around the George Floyd and a lot of Black Lives Matter acts.
When he called me and he said that someone had a bag of mulch and had put their foot on the mulch and said, "What does this look like to you?"
That kind of shook me up, and I actually had my first anxiety attack that day.
He was just like, "Mom, I can't do this. It's not safe."
I'm scared. I'm like freaking out. I can't move. And she's like, "Well, breathe." I was like, "I can't."
And I was just like, then it's just time to go.
That's what really was the straw that broke the camel's back.
And then the next thing he told me was just like, "I just got a grant from DAWA." Just the next thing you know, he's self-employed, a Black-owned business owner.
It really felt like somebody saw me and was like, "You need this. I want to help you. I want to see you grow." And that's exactly what it was, and that's exactly what it did.
DAWA Studios is a content creation studio for the BIPOC community.
DAWA is about that action. It's not just random letters.
There's no separation to me between art and community. Like, art is one of the most powerful tools to build community and bring people together. And that's something that I've always kind of known innately, but also something I've explored and grown in terms of my ability to do that.
There's a lot of people who said they were going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and it always happens like that. But then there's also a population of people who actually do the work.
In partnership with South by Southwest, Vision 8291 focuses on centering and elevating the work of visionary BIPOC artists and leaders with the intention of annually raising funds to directly support the work of Austin BIPOC-led grassroots organizations. And the Black Lives Music Fund creates artist education and economic initiatives to help recipients build sustainable music careers.
DAWA is out in the community providing something that's so positive, and it has healing mechanisms to it.
We have organizations like DAWA that fight against the grain, even on a level where Chaka's, downtown at City Hall, raising his voice in there and advocating for us. We need the people that do that.
After working with DAWA, I had a true shift in my belief system in the way that nonprofits can be used for truly accomplishing and staying to what the mission, vision, and goal is that is set out.
What it looks like right now is that we distributed almost $300,000 to the community in 5 years, including $32,000 during the winter storm.
When he seen that Weekend was actually out there putting our lives at risk, DAWA called and asked what they could do to assist and gave us a donation, which helped us buy most of the resources actually that we gave away.
The work that the social worker does, the work that the teacher does, the work that healthcare providers, those that work, take care of our elderly, their work is so essential. So when we support that specific group, we are supporting an entire community.
It feels good to know that there are people who are willing to invest in those of us who are out in the community trying to make a difference.
They invest in us all the time. It's time for us to return the favor.
I mean, this is what makes Austin weird. This is what makes Austin great. Leaders like Shaka that really want to build a community, and it starts at that grassroots level.
When I think of DAWA being here for a long time and evolving, I think of more healing, more medicine, and more opportunities and resources for Black and brown people within the city.
DAWA means building the capacity of givers to give.
The future for DAWA is making giving to the givers a national movement. I've put my time, my sweat, my energy into this place that I love, and I have to make sure that myself as a giver, the generations that come underneath me know that they have a place here.
So if you are someone that has been moved by a teacher, if you are someone that's been moved by works of art that you see, if you're somebody that's moved by live music and things of that nature, it's gonna go away if you don't invest in it. And so when you invest in someone like me and you invest in DAWA, you are empowering thousands and thousands of people to be whole, to be themselves, to follow their passion as educators, to follow their passion as caretakers. When you invest in DAWA, you're investing in them, in that community, in their work.
Yeah, and that's also like with the cover, which is why I really tried to. The cover is saying a lot if you look and you actually pay attention and you really dissect it. It's like I thought about it for such a long time. It's the most I've probably ever
thought about a cover
ever, and it's actually one of the more simple ones. But the spiritual waiting room one was a lot of work, but.
that was
crazy.
That was a great piece though.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That one was like, I was going through it. I was like, but in a whole other way.
That was like awakening time.
That was me coming, arriving to this, like, or realizing like, oh, like something's coming, something's going to build. It's going to take a long time, but it's going to build and it's still building.
Okay. So, and this doesn't have to be musically.
Okay.
But of course it can be. But were there, like, what inspiration did you have?
I definitely had inspiration for this one. My biggest number one inspiration for the first part was Slow Pulp. This band called Slow Pulp. There's a song called New Horses. Everyone, stop everything. Stop this interview. Stop everything and go listen to it. I'm obsessed with Slow Pulp. I think they're the most amazing. She just hits it on the nail of like how to convey emotion through sound and through her voice. And I really studied her because I was like, that's her. That's whoever the sadder version of me is in the story. It's through the guise of this sound. And so I played that religiously. I still, like this morning, I listened to it. And then the second part was very Charlie XCX. Like it was, and if the girls are keeping up, I've been like posting a lot of Charlie XCX. I'm obsessed with Charlie XCX. I think there is nobody that serves cunt better. Like because it's so passive, and she's a triple Leo, and I'm a Leo.
wild.
So yeah, a triple Leo, and I'm a Leo rising. So I'm like, I can reach it if I need to, and so I just wanted to make stuff that was like super fun, and Charlie's so great at that. Of course, Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. I mean, but I don't even talk about her because I'm just like, duh.
It's just like, oh, everyone's inspiration.
Like everybody, like I'm not special. And Sufjan Stevens,
Type.
was a big for the first part. I call it the above part.
Nice.
Like and it was just like, I love Sufjan. I love I really like production. I want to get more into producing because I hear it and I know it. And shout out to Marshall and to really everyone I work with for letting me actually touch things.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting better at. I'm playing the piano on it. I'm doing like a lot of different textural things that I never usually do because I have too much anxiety towards it. But Sufjan Stevens, he doubles his guitars a lot. I love doubling. I love panning, and I love anything that you can double. So the vocals are all like triple stacked, and I just love doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't do that in the below part, and which is so you feel that it feels more intimate and it feels like more like personal, and then it becomes thinner and it becomes like more pop and more just like, pop girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean because there's a lot going on in that first half.
So much.
Yeah.
So much textual.
I love
information.
It though.
And it's not even done from what you've heard.
Yeah, for sure.
There's more that's going to be put on it.
Do you have any like anticipated like songs for the people that you're like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do when they hear this?
I know exactly what the girls are going to like.
Which one?
The girls are going to love Cherry, which is, it's not called Cherry, but the first song after the opening song with you.
Oh, yeah.
And then it goes into that first actual song.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be drums and that's going to be added and bass. And so it's going to give that very like indie, like indie girl, bedroom punk vibe, slowpoke. Yeah. And so I'm like very excited. I just know that,
the girls
the girls, because it's just like, all I do is dress up for you.
I like it.
I was in my brain. I was like, I got to get in my Cranberries Linger
for sure.
bag. I was like, what would the Cranberries do? And that was so fun. Like I've always wanted to make a song that sounds like that and feels like that, where you're angsty and it's just like, boy genius. Like
it definitely is
just
angsty,
like a rock chick. I like to break shit. Like that's what I wanted that to feel like. But then I know in the below, I know Head's
cool.
I know there's going to be like, I know the boys are going to like Head.
The boys will like Head.
I think the boys are going to like Head. I think because it has that.
Yeah.
It's more masculine. It has this great, even though I'm like up there.
Yeah, you're singing, but
vocally, it has
that.
that. And then your part's going to be at the beginning and in the transition, because you didn't hear any of that either. But and so it just has more of that male.
Yeah.
And it is because it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Between, as we know, because you're featured in it, that it's like almost this conversation between, partners, right? And so like, I just think that one's going to resonate to the boys.
For sure.
And then I think Pokemon
hits.
That's the one of the summer.
As a boy, Pokemon hits. I fuck with that one.
Well, and that's cool because like I love that. I love throwing the boys a bone. You know what I mean? Like I'm always gonna throw the boys a bone, and like that was ridiculous. That song is just, and that's when I know that it's gonna do good, is because when it's like when I think it's just stupid and I think it's just silly. Like I'm That Bitch, I think forever is the dumbest song I have and will ever write. But 5 years later, it got on a Hulu show and I'm like getting money from it. I'm like, out of everything, I was like,
That's how it goes.
I was like, how dare you?
I could definitely see Pokemon being on any show, no problem.
Pokemon,
because it's for that moment. Like it's for like
yeah,
they gotta wait to listen. But
you know, with the girls, and you know, and it's like, and I think that one is where we really land into the below.
That's when we're like, look,
let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, like because the Dance Revolution song is really for me just
it's like an intro.
Yeah, it's a turn.
It's really good, but it's like
it's pretty much going to do the same thing that the first one does. You know, where it's just kind of like now we're turning,
warping into this.
We're warping into this, and we're going to add sounds and a lot more things. But it's like, yeah, like I was just like, I have so many friends that are DJs, you know, and shout out to my friend Soy Ea, who is just an incredible DJ, one of the best DJs in Austin. And she like went with me to Corpus when we did it.
Nice.
Like she was just there in the room because I was like, I need a DJ here. Like obviously I love you, Dusty. Like Dusty is very much like, Dusty. I know he just went. But yeah, he is 100% obvious. But I'm talking about a DJ for the girls, Dusty. I was like, I need a girl. I need one of the girls. And not only do I need one of the girls, but like I also need like the girls. Which does that make sense to anybody? But like I needed it for the gays, for the days, for the girls. I wanted it to be fun and playful, and I get really nervous being a queer person making music that's girly. I get very nervous because I want to be taken seriously, and I don't want to just be seen as, you know, some queer artist that, you know, likes to dress up. Like that's never my vibe, never my intention. But Leslie really helped me navigate through the songs, and shout out to Jimmy and Ducky and Dusty for being like, no, like this is cool and this is fun and do it and like don't be scared of nothing. Like you know, it's been a while since I've written a pop song, so I was just like, I don't know if I still got it in me, you know. But it's different. It's a different type of pop music, you know. And I was like, what did Jojo Siwa say? Like I invented gay pop.
Jojo Siwa's crazy.
What a wild ride.
Speaking of, no, I'm just kidding.
Speaking of,
no, that's cool. Okay, so you had one of your favorite DJs, two of your favorite DJs.
Yes.
In the session.
Dusty once again just went.
In the session for most of those songs, then all those songs.
Yeah. Well, she was there when,
especially for Pokemon, or putting it together. You mean?
She was there. We had already made Pokemon before she got there, but she was just like, we did Boppy, and
cool.
and we completely created Married, which is
Married's
the last
really
song,
good too,
which is the last one. Which
man, every song. I don't know any of the names of the songs in the beginning.
Yeah, because it's all one thing. Yeah, it's only one thing. Yeah,
the like second to last song.
With the weird baby voice?
Yes. That one.
I only breathe.
Yeah. That one's really like, it had me.
That's my favorite.
It helped me to understand, like you probably a little bit more. Like it really just put me in not put me in my place, I guess, but like I was just like, okay, like, you know, some songs I've been listening to a lot of like the Marias lately, like the Submarine.
Every day you are posting something about the Marias.
I love them.
Number one fan. Literally number one fan.
I was talking to our friend Kylie we were talking about the album a little bit.
Yeah, we love Kylie.
And I was telling her how, you know, I'm a dude. So like, it's really cool to listen to an album. And again, I'm talking about Submarine still, but it really made me like, oh, dude, you're such a dude. Like, you need to like get your head out of your ass a little bit and like think about other people sometimes when you're going through your emotional like moments or whatever. Like
big moment.
And I felt like I was getting a little of that off, especially that third song, just because it was just like, okay, I'm in the midst of this album, but I'm only thinking about myself, like. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm right there with you. I know what you're talking about. But then for a second, I was just like, holy shit, this is a different type of grief that I don't know. And it just made me feel so compassionate for a second for like the world, like all of a sudden, and was just like, oh yeah, it's not all about me. And then we can get back to thinking about just me once we start dancing and shit. But yeah, that song really like did it for me as well. It was weird.
That one, which I'll tell you off camera what I think the title is going to be, because I don't know if I'm going to be bold enough to title it what I want.
Oh, I want to talk about this on camera. No, we don't have to, but.
Okay. I was like.
Keep going, I'm sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask you, when you're working on something like this, that I guess potentially people could be like, we all have people in our lives that are like, oh, this is probably about me, or like they think, how does that affect your getting it done? Like, how do you deal with that and still push through it?
It doesn't affect me, and I had to learn how to do that. And every time I think about it affecting me, I think about Adele. I always think about Adele, and I think about 19, and I think about 21, and I think about 25, and I think about 30, and I think about all of her projects, and I think about just God, you know, like how brutal and how honest. But that's that's the money, that's the key, you know, and that's the truth, you know what I mean? And like, and that's our job as an artist, is to be truthful. I was just having a conversation about this with my friend Sammy, where I was just like, you have to be honest, like, and you have to be real, and you have to not be afraid. Like, they know, don't date me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there may be a song about you.
It's like Kendrick Lamar said.
Yeah. What did he say? I was literally thinking about what did he say?
He said, "Stop playing with me for I put you in a song."
Stop playing with me before I take you into a song. Stop playing with me before I take you. That's don't then. What the story is gonna be based off of if you play me or if you don't play me.
Yeah.
So like you may get a bunch of love songs written about you. Congratulations. Or you may get not ones and not ones. And like, and that's what, you know, sadly that particular story and that particular song. But what I do try to do to be understanding and to be considerate is I really hope that how do I word this? I was like, I always hope, because in the past it hasn't been identified, and that really hurt me on a personal level. But I think, especially I was thinking of Barefoot and of this, you know, as the above part, is I really try my best to show my faults and to not just bash. I really try my best to not ever do that. And I really try my best to be like, you know, I know my wrongs. I know where I'm at. I know who I am. I know what I've done. I know what I haven't. And there's an element to that for me that is important. And I think that helps me with my truth. It's like, if you're going to be truthful and you're going to potentially drag some people in your work, it's like you need to like balance that with also reflecting inwards on yourself and seeing like it, because it takes two people to get somewhere, you know what I mean? And so that's where I kind of create the peace for myself of just being like, look, I'm being harsh at times, but I'm also being harsh with myself, to myself, towards myself. And so, but that song, you know, I love that song. And I think that it's not going to be everybody's favorite, but it's mine because it's just like, you know, I only breathe for your heart now. I can't stop checking my phone now. Like,
it's just like, fuck.
If there's any way that I could have, if I could sum it all up in like two sentences, that would be it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole essence of the whole project. And I feel like that song for me, because we actually made them in order.
Nice.
And so that song for me was when I realized, okay, I'm telling something that needs to be a part of it. That was when it clicked for me. And I was like, I just love that song. It reminds me of old Sia, like when she used to do like Little Black Sandals and Breathe Me, and like it's weird. I think it's perfectly like throwback to when I used to be really weird and experimental, and I just love it. I think so. There's a line between like being harsh maybe in a song. For me, I feel like sometimes the line for me is like trying my best not to be harsh with a title.
100%.
That's the harder thing for me, because I kind of just want to call it Wild One. Like that's ultimately, but I don't think that that's what I'm going to title it. And I think I'm going to title it because first of all, I want the first songs to be wordy with their titles.
I like it.
Because the second part is one words. And so, well, Dance Revolution, but whatever. But you know, they're one words. And so I want them to be almost like a little, not like I'm not Lana Del Rey. That's like, you know, but just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so I think I may title it.
We can believe it.
Yeah. Well, I think because I think it's what I'm going to title it, but I think it's going to be called A Lullaby for a Grown Ass Man.
That's fire. I like it.
That's what I want.
That's what I mean.
That's what I want to title it.
That's what I mean about, I mean, I listened to it and immediately it was just kind of like, oh shit, like, you know, there's nothing, as a dude, there's nothing wrong, like, with being like, holy fuck, like, I'm like in my own head all the time and I'm not like paying attention or just respecting everything around me and like understanding that like it doesn't all like revolve around me, men, like, and shit like that. So I felt like that song was kind of touching on that, and
that's what the song is about.
Yeah.
But it's also like about the chemical, like I say chemical in a lot, but it for me it's like it's it's a chemical thing. You know what I mean? Like the way that you guys have to navigate through life is inherent, and it's her, you know, it's DNA, you know, it's genetic. That's the word I was trying to say. And you know, it's a really hard thing. I've watched it to like for you guys to navigate through, is like this feeling of like, you know, it's that's, you know, I have a lot of songs with the next project I'm working on that I'm like, I hit it and I did it. I said it the way I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
But this one crept up on me, and it's so weird and very cryptic. But ultimately, like for me, I feel like there is no better explanation of the complexity of the love that I have for the person that song is about.
Yeah.
And no better way for me to do it in a way that is very confrontational, but is also like desperate. You know what I mean? Like it's both. And it was so fun. That was so fun. I did all of the vocals on this same mic with a blanket over me, which I love.
Yeah.
It changed my life. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a blanket forever now. And that was the first song that I implemented that with. And so I felt like I was just alone, and I was like in this world. And especially the end part where it's like kind of like a choir. It was so fun getting to record that and just be alone and just like, it was very emotional. Like that one and the last song.
Yeah, the last songs.
That one is sorry to that man. Sorry to this man. Like I could see him walking down the street. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't notice a thing. Like that last one.
Yeah. And then it's
not okay. It's not okay what I did at the end.
It's all right.
I apologize in advance to everyone.
To everyone and everyone involved.
To everyone and everyone involved. I am so sorry. That question that you were asking about, like being honest, or like how do you
like navigate?
I feel more about that with the last song. That is the first song I think I've written in a long time.
that
I'm like, because I'm not being cryptic.
Yeah.
The last song before it transitions is like,
yeah,
I'm just saying it
have to though. That's where we're
at that point, like.
I want to touch on the song title thing.
Okay.
So I'm the same way, like making stuff. I think about titles a lot towards the end. Song first, then I might have a title for it.
Yeah.
But there are, like, I even have stuff now that I'm just like, oh, I want to call it this. Because I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, was there ever a time where you led with that and you were like, I don't care. It's like, call it this, so this person sees it and is like, holy shit, like, this is, like, this song is about me. Like, have you ever made music and done something like that? Cool.
No, and I never would.
Yeah.
I'm not, no. I think that there are people on this planet that would love to think that I operate that way.
Yeah.
And I do not.
Yeah.
I'm a musician and I'm a channeler. I'm a bridger.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think people who don't write music, everybody's different, but for me at least, like, it's a message. It's something that I'm receiving in its almost in its entirety, and then I have to catch it. And so it's like, I'm not here to target anybody. Like, and that's, I'm really trying my best, but again, like, what did Kendrick say?
Don't play with me.
Don't play with me
to a song.
No, don't play with me before I turn you to a song.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you have to play that game as an artist of just like being like, okay, like, but I really always try not to make, and this is the way I work, period now. I try not to make any moves in anger or in a space of frustration.
For sure.
I've been there. I've had people that have brought me there. Don't like it. Not my vibe. Not that girl.
It's very cringy too. You always look back and you're always like, damn.
It's yuck.
Yeah.
It's icky. It's yuck 3000. And so ultimately, like, I'm in a place now where it's like,
no, I like that because
let me think, you know.
I do feel like a lot of people, like, we were talking about Adele. You could bring up someone like Taylor Swift and stuff. Like, I feel like people think that, like, songwriters, like, we are speaking our truth, we're getting it off, but I do feel like there is sometimes a misunderstanding because maybe there are artists who do that, but there's never, I feel like I subscribe more to something being in the air, like it coming to me and me spitting it out with the language I speak, like, which is only the words I know and I can only like adapt it to my experience. And that's what's really happening. I feel like with albums like this, like, you want, as an artist, you want people to listen to it, connect with it, and move through their grief through it, as opposed to being like, I wonder who this is about. Because that would piss me off. Like, if I made something. But again, we live in like a world right now where, I mean, there's two sides of it, but I do feel like there's so many albums that come out that are just like, and of course these people are uber famous. Yeah. But it's just like,
people always want to know the tea.
Yeah.
And they want to dissect. And the more that we elevate and the more that our work is going to elevate, the more that's going to be in question.
Yeah.
And you can't live without it. It's inevitable. And I have no issue with it. I think ultimately the person who is in charge of your story and your narrative is you. Like, people can spin as far as they want, but if you continue to just anchor what the actual truth is, like, people can go wherever they want to go. And that's how I feel. Like, it's like, sure, like, also, like, I'm not afraid. I'm not here to out anybody, but I'm not afraid to say, yes, it was predominantly about one person, but also I've been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, and my best friend, Belinda, passed away, and that was really what drove me, it's like to this project. more than relationships or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yes, we are people. We are humans. We go through relationships. I was in a relationship. Other people have been in a relationship. You know, you get out of it and you process and you grieve and this was my, you know, this was an element of it for me. And like we were talking about that window at the beginning, you know, like I gave myself an amount of time to harp and like be sad. And I've already exited that. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I've moved on from the emotional component of it at this point.
You say in the album that you don't think we, or it said, you say, I think what happens is we feel it, we express it, and that's when it's released.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, because I feel like there's something you say right before you say that that's also implies like, look, we never like get over it. Like it's never like fully gone.
Yeah.
But what we do with it is this, and then the rest of it or whatever it becomes after that, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just what it is, and that's life. And I resented with that a lot. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I think it's good for. I think what you're saying with this piece, and I could be wrong, and I'm gonna ask you what you're saying. I guess I'm asking you right now.
Okay.
Like what you would like people to walk away with, but to me, it was that. For me, it was an overwhelming feeling of just being okay with the fact that I am a grieving human being.
Yeah.
And also understanding that most people around me are grieving as well. And that's just kind of like, we're not constantly in that state, but it's an ongoing theme in our lives, and it always will be.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's death, relationships, friends, like all that type of stuff. It was just being okay with it and understanding that it's around. But I guess what I'm asking is, what would you like
the takeaway
to be?
Yeah. The takeaway is that we, and I'm not trying to get too woo-woo and too spiritual, but like my understanding of how this whole thing works is that we come here to feel, you know, this is a very low vibrational reality that we live in. And that's okay, that we came here on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was things that we needed to deal with. There were things that we needed to grieve. There were things that we needed to reprocess for our soul to become our highest self, right? And the people that can be aware of that and be in alignment with that within this reality are living their highest timeline within this reality, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, for me, it's like, I think people want to be on this planet and want to be absent, like, of hard shit or sad things, or be like, oh, because these hard things are happening, I'm a bad person. No. Hard things can sometimes be the most like rewarding, most gift that the universe can give you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's like, as above, so below. Take everything away from it and just, it's a mantra. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a thing that you should be saying, you know, when you are going through something. Like, well, as above, so below. What that's the part, that's the deal that we made to get to come back here, you know, is like, we're here to, one of my amazing friends who's a shaman, he said, you know, we come here to dance. Love that.
Fuck it.
Like, eat that up. You know what I mean? Like, we come here to dance and to feel again, mm-hmm. and to touch things and to bleed and to cry and to fuck and to, you know, we just to feel, because you're absent of that when you're on the other side. And so there are you know, an infinite amount of souls and energies that are just vastly jealous of us right now, mm-hmm. that we're getting to be here and experience. And so that is such a long thing that I just said. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that you cannot be absent of emotion, mm-hmm. and you cannot be absent of grief. That is a part of the deal of coming back to this planet. And just understand that whatever it is that you're going through is divine, and it's a part of it, and it's beautiful, and it's incredible. And also that thank goodness to the universe for us to be able to process things in the way that we choose to, you know, whether it be going internal and grieving and healing and exploring and going through your past, you know, which is the above part, or just going out with people that you love and your friends and just having a good time. Both of those things are important. Both of those things are necessary. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let people judge you for, you know, for anything, really for anything. Like there is nothing I can think of that people should judge you for. Like if your tactic of processing and grieving is going out and getting fucked up with your friends, do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that that's lesser than, because no matter what, as above, so below, no matter what, you're going to have to go through the hard part. Yeah. You can escape all you want. No matter which way you go about it, you're going to do both. Yeah. So sure, fuck it. Get drunk first. You know what I mean? But it's going to hit you. Yeah. You know, or go sad. But then you're going to want to get out. You want to get out. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, be okay with that. Like, we're trying to strive for like perfection and all these fucking things. I'm just like, good luck, Charlie. Yeah. Like, that ain't going to fucking happen. Like, just have fun and enjoy yourself and like live your life. And like, whatever way you do this, like this album, like if you do whichever way, like it doesn't matter. Like it's your journey and it's your life, and like, and live it. And like, yeah.
Much sorrow comes from women, no, not honor and truth.
I don't wanna drink no more. I'm good. I don't wanna smoke no more. I'm good. I don't wanna fight no more. I'm good. All is good in the hood. Heaven knows all is well on this side. But if you're trying to slide, you know I'm down to ride. You know I'm down to ride. Know I'm down to ride. If you're trying to slide, I sip, I dip, I take off. I think that this could be it all. Then I lose it, abuse it, I bruise it. Wanna know what you thinking, baby? I just wanna do it like baby, you know this the water like the sunshine in your life. I don't wanna be sublime, I don't wanna waste my time. I just wanna be alive. All is good in the hood, heaven knows all is well on this side. But if you're trying to slide, you know I'm down to ride. You know I'm down to ride, know I'm down to ride. I don't wanna drink no more. I don't wanna smoke no more. I don't wanna fight no more. All is good in the hood, heaven knows all is well on this side. But if you're trying to slide, you know I'm down to ride. You know I'm down to ride, know I'm down to ride. If you're trying to slide, you flip it, you stick it. The one that you licking, look back and reflecting on you. So power, more power, you know that I want it, I got you, it's so powerful. Your mind is so powerful. Your heart and my soul is one, it's united. We flying like kites, it's like only 50 pounds until our light shift. Oh, I'm addicted from a distance, like it's cool, yeah. I know the affliction, I build it, I brick it by brick it, then sip it, I sip it, I play it down, knowing we ain't cool, baby, knowing this ain't you. I play it down, lay you down inside my life.
Today, Latinitas is honored to be sitting down with Hector Gonzalez and Santiago Suarez Ruiz of Rooster Teeth's Gallos Unidos, an initiative started in 2021 over at Rooster Teeth to highlight and uplift the Latino community. On top of all the good they did, Gallos Unidos also became great supporters of Latinitas, even inviting us to their Hispanic Heritage Month live stream and donating a portion of their merch to profiting us. While there's a lot to talk about with everything I just mentioned, I just wanted to start off with, how are you guys doing with everything that has happened?
I'm doing well. How about you? I'm awake. Yeah. Well, I guess obviously, so the elephant in the room obviously is Rooster Teeth is shutting down after 21 years.
Yep.
We were acquired through a bunch of series of acquisitions by Warner Media or Warner Discovery, and they have decided to shut us down. So that's not unknown at this point, I think. But I think everybody at work in that boat is just trying to like figure out what comes next. I think a lot of us were taken care of by Warner with like we have some severance and we have some time, and it wasn't an immediate shutdown. We were given 60 days to be able to start working and looking and winding down projects. Like Santiago is the lead of a group.
Yeah, I manage a group of young creators called Best Friends Today, and they're currently looking for a new home, right? Either independent or third party acquisition, but they're really excited. It'd be a shame to lose all that momentum after building a full for a year.
But we were all given enough time to like wind this down, or like they have the time to look, and so it's not like an immediate, like it was very much like kind of a gut punch for all the stuff that we've done, but it wasn't like get out of the door, right?
Right. Well, at least because we've seen that happen with other people in the YouTube space. So I'm curious. So was that something you started with Rooster Teeth, or was that a separate thing?
Started with Rooster Teeth. It was about
It
was about a year. Well, they allowed me to have the resources to do that, but me, my manager Juwan, and the talent director Ida, we spent about a year looking for new talent, like TikTok, Instagram, new up-and-coming creators that would work together. And we narrowed the list to about like 50 people. And we met with every single one of them, and then we flew out about 10 of them to LA just to like meet and see like who has synergy. And we narrowed down to the three, Will, Sammy, and Caroline, and then just instant like chemistry in the room, right? So we're like, we need to get these guys out to Austin. We moved them out last year around like April to June, like they all came staggered.
Wow.
And then we launched in August of last year, and then the past like 6-7 months, we gotten like over 53 million views on TikTok, like 50 million views on Instagram, and like almost 100,000 people following us on YouTube. So
they're very funny. They are very, very funny, the three of them, and they're really, it's a diverse group, and they're just really good kids. I say kids not to like just condescending. They're 20. They're like between 20 and 23.
Oh, like, so they're young.
They're very young.
Yeah,
and especially at Rooster Teeth, they're the youngest ones.
Yeah.
In the room.
Oh, yeah.
So and I say that endearingly when I say kids, but they're great. They're really, really good people.
So you guys were saying you had like time to figure this out, and with stuff like that, this was maybe going to come towards the end, but now I'm curious what is going to happen with things like that.
So again, like Warner Bros. Has given us the opportunity, like the 60 days. They're also given us a lot of resources. I know on their end, they have executive lawyers and people parsing out through, the value of the company, because they don't want to devalue what we built. They also don't want to be like, hey, anybody can come buy this, because then we might end up in a home where it's like, it might not fit for us. So they're taking the extra time, and they're very, very, how do I say this? The expertise that they're trying to ensure that this continues has gotten a lot of respect for me, because it's like, I want them to succeed, even if it means I don't come with, even if it's like a third party coming and coming like, hey, we love the talent, but we can't afford everybody. The fact that they're even taking the time while they're shutting everything down speaks volumes for their dedication. Like, they see value in it, and they don't want to screw with anybody or make sure that anybody is left without a job, like at the end of it. And yeah, it's been like 4 weeks now that we've been working together, and then hopefully here in like next 2 weeks we'll find final answers or solutions. And at the end of the day, they're like, hey, worst comes to worst, we are open in communication with you guys to acquire the name yourself, so you can continue it and sell it and keep shopping it around. So that's you can't ask for anything else in that in the industry, right?
And I would say that I've been telling people this, that it's really, really interesting. Like if job security wasn't a thing, right? Because it is a thing. This would be fascinating to watch on the outside, because I've never been a part of something that's like this, a relatively successful entertainment company, that's production company that's really well known.
Yeah.
And seen what it's like for all of it to kind of like go away, but like from a business aspect, like what do you do with brands? How do you do? How do you sell off IP? How do you decide what is monetized, what's not? Like, what we do with our physical location, which is a big space over at the Austin Studios. Like, all of these things are interesting to hear and to be in the conversations about. I'm just a part of it that's affected by it, right?
I
But
mean,
like, but it is very interesting to kind of like see how the decisions are made.
I love that you mentioned Austin too, because Rooster Teeth is such a staple in Austin in a lot of ways, in my mind, and maybe this is only in my mind, but we've seen this like Hollywood jumping to Austin, and I think so much of that is South by and like festivals, but a lot of it is Rooster Teeth having presence and being successful here also.
Yeah.
So that's crazy to see that to see what's going to happen with that.
Rooster Teeth has been in Austin as long as I have, which is about, I got here in 2002 and the company started in 2003. I got here to go to UT film school, and it's always kind of been in the background, kind of like rising and falling and doing all that stuff. And I was able to get over there around 6 years ago. And so, yeah, it's a huge part of that. It's a part of it that's been great for the community. But, you know, it's ending, and there's cycles, and who knows what the next thing will be. And you know, I think it's important that a lot of the people that were successful and helped push the place forward, I know, are staying in Austin, at least for the time being. So who knows what'll be the next part of that, you know?
Yeah, so let's take it back for a moment and introduce you guys a bit more. So how did you both get involved with Rooster Teeth?
You go first.
Okay.
You have to talk.
I'm Hector Gonzalez. I went to film school in 2002. I graduated in 2006, and then I started working at UT from 2007 to 2013. And
right away.
Yeah, and then 2013, I went to a company called Megalomedia, which does like 600 Pound Life and a bunch of other reality TV. And then in 2018, I went to Rooster Teeth, and during all that time, I also went back to grad school in 2013 and got my master's in film studies. And then on top of that, I started randomly taking martial arts when I graduated undergrad, and I did really well at that. I got a couple of black belts, but that also led to me doing fight choreography and stunt choreography around town for films, and a lot of films at UT, and a lot of friends that would go on to do things both independently and whatever. And so a lot of that kind of coalesced at Rooster Teeth. I ended up doing like stunt and safety things. I did the equipment, was my main job, which I had sustained through that whole time. And then I randomly became a producer. And DAWA Studios was a big part of that, because we led a lot of initiatives that had just kind of started from the ground up. And a lot of it was us saying, like, how do you do that? And I had a knowledge of how I would produce things leading a department as a department head in stunts and film. So I kind of applied that to, you know, who do I call for this? Who do I go to find the answers for that kind of a thing? And so that's kind of how I ended up doing DAWA Studios, or how I got to DAWA Studios from there.
Yeah, whoa. Yeah. And what about you?
Oh, man, I took a different route. I moved to Austin around 2017, right out of college. No job, just like a couple $1,000s in my pocket. I was like, let's just move to Austin. It's halfway through California, so we can move back home. And then I got hired around 2018, I believe it was June, in animation. So I started out as a coordinator on Genlock, and about a month in, my producer had a baby. So they're like, now you're in charge.
Oh my God.
So immediately I got thrown in, and, you know, after a couple months of hard work, we launched a show. It was like the first show I worked in. It had huge talent. I think that's very lucky. We got Maisie Williams,
Michael B. Jordan,
David Tennant. So it was like, wow, I got to work on a property with these huge talents. And from there, they were so impressed with the work that I did for pre-production. They're like, hey, can you help us out in post-production? And from there, they're like, hey, can you help us out with talent and supervising and scripts? And I'm like, so yeah, I can help out with that. And I got introduced to a lot of new talents, a lot of voice acting. And from there, they're like, wow, we really want you to continue at this company. Unfortunately, your contract's up. Would you like to transition over to executive route as a EA, as an executive assistant? I'm like, sure. And that's Jordan Levin, our current general manager. He just got hired from Warner Brothers. He's the youngest Warner Brother exec. I think he was the head of the CW
back in the day.
Oh back in the day,
like Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, he's worked
Smallville. Like he helped create all those shows. Yeah,
he greenlit Golden Girls. Like he's been around.
Whoa, wait.
Yeah.
I thought, hold up.
Yeah, he's been around.
That's very important.
He's a really
to me.
impressive person. Yeah,
That's crazy. What?
Yeah.
Tell him thank you.
Definitely.
Truly.
But as an EA, the pandemic was happening. George Floyd stuff was happening.
Right.
And Rooster Teeth kind of it was Jordan who had the initiative. It was like, I want to open up the floor. Like, this is affecting everybody. We're nowhere near each other. We're all at home. I just want to talk and discuss, like, how is everybody feeling affected?
Oh, wow.
And that's where a couple voices kind of spoke up. One of them being Hector, like, basically saying everything that I felt at that time. And from there, we had like the first version of DEI committee kind of coming in and talking about everybody's kind of like perspective.
Yeah.
And that was V1. And then V2 was Gaius Unidos. And when that came along, I think Jordan and my supervisor at the time, Steph, both put my name in as well. They're like, hey, I think you would be a good fit. And then, me and Hector was kind of like, we didn't coordinate together. We're just kind of, hey, you're also in content. And I think
you're also Latino.
You're also Latino.
Well, we had like co-leads both the first year and the second year because we were able to do it for 3 years before this shutdown. And the first year, our co-lead wasn't able to continue. And the second year, Sage Basan Juarez from the Valley, she was amazing. Mission, Texas, shout out to her. Shout out to Andrew, whatever she said on the live stream. But she was great, but she also, she was younger, so her career moved her on and she had moved away. So then in year 3, it was just the two of us. But going back to that, the beginning of it was really born out of the George Floyd thing, like he had said.
Right.
At the time, a lot of companies were paying a lot of lip service to the idea of DEI, right?
Yep.
But Jordan really, really, really put his money where his mouth was because he basically, like Santiago said, he literally had town halls, and this was during the pandemic, so everybody was at home. And I remember the first town hall was just, he basically said, here's a sign-up sheet, put your name, and we'll go in order, and just literally whatever you want to talk about. And I think I might have been the second or third person to talk, but it was literally just people talking about what it's like being whatever minority they were, whatever their differences were, whatever it is, and like how painful, how honest, all these. And so everybody in this call, and I remember the first one was scheduled for like an hour, and I think it went for like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And he, as the GM, just sat there, and he'll joke about it that he's an older white Jewish guy, and he just sat there and he led the whole thing, and he was just listened, and it was amazing. And I have a massive amount of respect for Jordan, and so that led to the first version of the DEI group, where there was a bunch of different groups where we tried to figure out how could we do something, and it didn't really work because it was kind of like the first version where you're like, hey, I think I want to do something different, but you don't have a plan in place, right?
Right.
But the important thing is that Jordan and the other executive team, they took all that information, and they were like, okay, so let's go back to Warner, and let's go back and let's talk and let's come up with a plan. And about, maybe 3 or 4 months later, we were asked, hey, your name came up. Would you want to lead this? And I think we were both unanimous, like, yeah, I would like to be a part of this. And we had to get vetted. We had to get do you have the time for this? Are you in good standing with your departments? All that other stuff. And then we were allowed to. And again, at a time, my wife was working in a different company, and they had a DEI initiative, and I remember her telling me that they weren't really allowed to do much. And it was like, the idea was there, and it was a nice idea, but at the end of the day, all of those people were reporting to the general norm, like cis white male older people.
Yeah.
And we were like, Jordan was like, I'm hands off now. And he was like, you have the resources. HR is leading this. And a wonderful woman named Vina Ortiz was our HR lead. And she was great. She supported us through all of it. But they kind of really did leave every group. So there was Gaius Unidos, Black Excellence, Iridescence, which is the LGBTQIA plus group. There was Disabilities, which is their name, which is everybody with disabilities, both indivisible and physically presenting. And then there was WART, which is Women at Rooster Teeth. And I think and then is that all of us? Art, Asians at Rooster Teeth.
Wow.
So every group, those were to lead with, and every group for those first couple of years got $10,000 to do whatever you wanted with. Wow. So that's how we were able to kind of support y'all and do a lot of things with y'all. And anybody around if you went to a Guy Who News thing or you saw our thing somewhere or our merch lines, all of that was because we were given that budget. But not just that, they left us alone. They were like, you do what you want. And not every group did as much as we wanted to, but me and Santiago, we really knew from the beginning that there were things that we knew we wanted to do, and it wasn't a selfish thing. I never looked at it as a selfish thing, like, oh, I want to have a live stream. I want to put us in front of the camera. I just felt in my heart that, like, we're not going to see change unless we're making that change, right? So I used the Pride initiative at Rooster Teeth. Every year they made a big Pride clothing line, and it benefited Out Youth, which was amazing. They've done so much great stuff there. But I would look around and I would see how important Pride was, not just to Rooster Teeth, but to a lot of businesses. And I remember telling him and talking about it, and I was like, I don't think anybody's going to pay attention to the diversity that we're trying to bring about unless we're making somebody say, oh, there's a bottom line that we can benefit off of. And that's not to be cynical. That's being realistic and honest, right? Like, companies will pay more attention if they're like, oh, there's a market for that. So when we came up with a merch line, and when we were like, we're going to do a live stream, we didn't know how to do those things. We figured all of that out on our own, but we did know that it was important that we did them because not only was it something that could maybe show companies that they could do these things, but at the end of the day, I would always argue that, like, growing up Hispanic, I didn't have a lot of people that I could look at in the industry and say, like, look at them. But I was always like, if we can make one kid just, like, show up to one thing and say, like, look, they're doing it, that's, I think, was just as important as being able to support groups or make companies pay attention. So that's what we were kind of like, that's kind of like how Guy Who News was, like, started and what we were able to do.
You said so much good information right there.
Sorry. It's a lot, yeah.
Okay, so I love that what you were saying about your wife having a different perspective is very real from my experience. It's mainly like, we have a lunch. Yeah. We do our little lunch thing with our diverse group. So, I mean, honestly, that's phenomenal that they funded different things. And also, it's funny in my head to kind of check off the groups I would be in. It's like 4 groups there, but, go off. That's just crazy. That's so incredible that they did that. I also want to know, what was you guys' perspective on growing up Latino, maybe before joining Rooster Teeth? Mm-hmm. Because just personally, it was something I really didn't think about until joining Latinitas. It was something, I'm Puerto Rican, both my parents are Puerto Rican, but I don't speak Spanish, and I understand it pretty well, but I was never, like, Latino enough to hang out with Latino kids, so it was always just like, that's who I am. I'm Puerto Rican, but I look white. Like, it was always like what I said. Yeah. And it's just a different thing when you're, like, put in a position where you actually get to empower and get to bring that community, uplift that community and work on that. It's a very special thing. So I want to know how that was growing up here before.
Yeah, I can take, because I think I have a very similar perspective where I really didn't think about it until Rooster Teeth. And it was because I was born in Colombia. I lived there until I was like 8. Then I moved to Miami, where, again, the population there is a lot of Puerto Ricans, a lot of Cubans. Yeah. But to somebody who didn't even speak English at the time, I was Mexican to everybody. It's like, oh, you speak Spanish, you must be Mexican. I'm like, no, I'm Colombian. So it was that initial feeling of, like, immediately I had to lose my identity because there wasn't a Colombian community that I could look to other than my family. Yeah. But then the Latin community there embraced everything. Like, oh, you speak Spanish, you're part of us, right? When I went to school, it's like you hang out with the people that speak Spanish. Doesn't matter where you came from. We're all Latinos. And I took that with me when I moved to, like, Virginia, because I was a Navy brat. So it's like, up and down the East Coast. And, I became the darkest kid in Virginia or the darkest kids in North Carolina, right? And the only person speaks Spanish. So when I moved to Texas, I already had this mentality. It was like, I know my identity. I know I'm Colombian, but people are going to perceive me a certain way just based on my name, which was a huge thing when I first moved here, right? Just even putting my name down, they're like, "Oh, you must be Mexican. You're Santiago, right?" Like, it's a little Latin name. I'm like, no, I'm Colombian, and it's like kind of felt like I had to educate people because I would be silenced and then just kind of put in a box and like forgotten about. So coming into Rooster Teeth, when all these initiatives came up, I felt that it's like, oh, there's a great opportunity to educate, because even to this day, it's hard to differentiate, right? And I feel like, this is my own personal opinion, the Asian community kind of went through this, where it's like, hey, everybody's Asian. But now we're so educated where everybody's from, and we can tell the differences just based on dialect, even the way that they dress or some of the customs.
Or just watching shows, you see the subtitles, that's Korean, that's Japanese.
I want that for the Latino community. I feel like that is the next step for us, where it's like, oh, you're not just all Latino, Hispanic, you're Colombian, you're Puerto Rican, you're Honduran, and just finding those differences, because we come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But we're at the early stages of colorism and understanding that. So I'm glad that I'm part of the beginning of a movement that I think it's going to spread over the next couple of years.
I think so. I think we're getting there, because I remember growing up in Houston, I was like the first Puerto Rican almost any of those kids met, and I had that conversation so many times, like, oh, so you're Mexican, right? And it's like, no, but you don't understand. And then it's like, so it's part of the U.S., but it was just like it's very frustrating. I think understanding that we are not a monolith, that we are so diverse and so different in our traditions and the way we talk and the like literal slang and just everything is so imperative. And the fact that you guys come from different backgrounds, the fact that you guys talk about it, it's just like, it's there. We're so close.
Well, and that's why it was really important to us, because we got a lot of it, an earful of it. Like the name Gallos Unidos.
Oh. What do you mean?
Well, every part of it was an education, right? So like originally Gallos, rooster, right? They wanted us to be called Los Gallos. And I remember somebody from the LGBTQ community in our group was like, I don't like that, because I'm also Hispanic. And Los Gallos means,
like the gendered
right.
of it?
And they were and the irony was, she was absolutely right. But obviously, it's a gendered language, right? So like Los Gallos was probably not gonna fly, so we had to think about it and be like, okay, well, what about Gallos Unidos? And that really got traction, and I think we really liked it. But then, our looking in the like Gallos Unidos and every one of the BRGs served multiple functions at Rooster Teeth, including outside and internal. So internally being like, what resources do we want? What do we want to commit to? How do we want to lift up our people here? And part of the ways we did that was hosting get-togethers and trying to find people who were not on camera talent to be on camera from time to time on our live streams or whatever, so people could see the differences. But the truth and the reality of it is there was not a lot of people who outside of like, we had a couple of like Santiago from Colombia, we had a couple of people from the Dominican Republic, we had somebody from Bolivia, and a lot of Latinos, and that's it. And I remember our first year on our stream, and we got a lot of feedback that was like, where's Afro-Latino representation?
Yeah.
Where is, like across the pond in Europe and Spanish representation? And people would not be shy about letting us know that in comments, even if it was like, hey.
That's so much pressure.
Even if it was like, hey, we're celebrating all of the diversity for Hispanic or Latinos at Rooster Teeth. Here's a picture of everybody that we could find. And one of the things we did was like, everybody that we could find, and then we put a flag where their mother country was from, so everybody could see they're not. And in the comment section, it's people like, "Why you're not doing enough?" And so it was so like, hard. It's very hard.
It's also we're everywhere.
Yeah,
it's so many countries. It's not going to be everywhere.
And the truth. And I remember I got in that comment section. I was like, "You're right. That's what we're trying to change, because this is literally who works here. We're missing people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But we're trying. We're trying. And the only thing I can say for we're trying is like, if we weren't trying, nobody would be trying here." So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we tried. I mean, we even met with UT professors to talk about Latinx and Latina. because that was like
the debate. Oh my God.
The big debate where.
How do you guys feel about it?
Well,
it's such a heavy question now.
I think we both came from different perspectives, but ended up in the same place after talking
to Charles
and Mary.
Mary Elizabeth Beltran at ET and Charles Ramirez-Berg at ET. And
whereas a Colombian myself, it's like, well, you're just trying to change your language. Like, it's like I also spoke a little bit of German at times. Like, they have 3 genders. Like they have non-gender, like das, and then male and female for all their words. So it's like even harder to track. But after talking to Mary, and like the cycle of like, well, the name kind of changes every couple of years, right? You know, Latinos 1 year, Hispanics the other, Chicanos and stuff like that. But when the case was made, it was like, hey, this might not be meant for wider kind of like, hey, all of you are Latinx or Latine, but the people who identify as non-binary or people that kind of have a hard time kind of figuring out what they want to be called, this is just another option. And when I saw it as an option rather than the default, I was like very accepting to it. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So every single time we spoke or made any kind of internal message or external messages, Latina, Latino, and Latinx. Like everybody's included, not just one.
That's really nice.
Yeah, the AOX was a big thing, and part of that also, my perspective was like, I have my nieces and my nephews, and I'm like, they're of a generation that's growing up that's probably going to be a lot more educated than my parents were. Not even obviously where we come from, but like, how do you deal with non-binary identification? How do you deal with people who identify these different things? And they're probably going to have a lot more of a diverse education in that department, right? And so I remember thinking, I remember I asked Charles this, I was like, am I the old man yelling at clouds if I'm like, Latinx is not a thing, we don't have that, right? But if it's something that, for better or worse, like the press and the general public who controls things uses that word, and my nephews and my nieces grow up with it, should I not learn to like embrace it to the extent that it's useful? And Charles was like, he was like, again, every 20 years they're going to call us something different. So sure, yes and no, but the answer lies somewhere in between. And I think that's something that, again, we were both very negative about it, and I think we've been, it's useful when it's useful, and we'll deal with that. It's the same thing with like Hispanic Heritage Month and Latin Heritage Month. Like we were trying to when we tried to say that, right? Because Hispanic and Latin have different things, but for the U.S. they say Hispanic Heritage Month, and we know that Latin is more inclusive. So when we were coming up with our plans that first year for what we were going to do for Hispanic Heritage Month, we tried really hard to use the verbiage of Latin Heritage Month, and it just never took off because everywhere else in the country that you looked uses the phrase Hispanic Heritage Month, and so it's almost like
it's hard.
It's trying to pick and choose your battles for what you can accomplish.
It just, in my mind, I'm always just like, I mean everyone. We mean everyone, no matter whether it's whatever you're saying. It's like, I personally never had I just started seeing that, and I was like, oh, is that good? Cool. Yeah. I don't know. I was like, I'm Latina, but I could be Latinx. I don't know. Yeah. And then there was so much discourse, and I was like, or not. Okay. Yeah. Like, that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, I'm wherever people want to feel. Like, every feeling is valid. So it's like, whatever makes you feel more seen, because I personally... it just is what it is to me. I'm happy to be thought of as Latina even, so I'm like, okay. But no, I appreciate that. It's so hard. People don't understand how hard it is when you have like a company or a business or anything, even just a nonprofit, and you're putting out a statement to try and be inclusive, because you are trying to be as inclusive as possible, and then there will always be people that are like, but what about me, and what about this? And it's like, I'm trying, but it just wasn't as catchy. Like
we tried where we could as much as we could. So if nothing else, I think we can look at each other at the end of this 3 years. And, there was always for Gallos Unidos and for all the BRGs, the idea was eventually you would find your replacement so that the energy would be fresh and it wouldn't be stale.
Interesting.
We just got to the part where we were shut down, right?
It didn't work.
So for all intents and purposes, we're going to be the leaders of Gallos Unidos. And I think we're really proud of the fact that we can look at each other, and I know we worked our asses off, and I know we worked really hard, and I think we did everything we possibly could to showcase faces that were brown and everything we could, and to do everything we could to try to include as many people as we could along the way when we had the option.
Sorry, just to speak of that. I think the biggest thing that affirms that at work is I sit in a room and I look around and I'm like, wow, are we so diverse? Because now we have Justin and we have Juan, Diamond, Sammy and Will. Like, I think when I do Best Friends Today and I sit down for all my meetings, I'm just amazed. It's like there's a lot of representation here, and this is coming from the same company. When I sat down, it's like I'm the darkest one in the room, right? And that's less than 5 years of a change.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite thing you guys got to do with Gallos Unidos?
I know which one's mine.
What is it?
Armando moves to Austin.
That's pretty good. I will say, we'll talk about it in a second, but I'll probably say some of the live streams were great. But Armando Moves to Austin it's coming up on our anniversary. Our buddy Armando Torres, who's a comedian, he's a really funny dude. He worked at the LA branch called Funhouse out there, and he decided to move on his own because he was just in Austin. Like, he even made it part of his video. He made it like he was here for like 6 weeks in a row with and he lived in LA, but he was here and when I say that, I mean he was taking flights back and forth like every 2 or 3 days because he was just showing up on someone's stuff here at the Rooster Teeth proper. So he decided to move and try it down here. And it started as a joke, which I really didn't think was going to happen. Like, this dude just, I don't know, he has like some dirt on some people or something, because you don't get a show made like that because you have to submit an approval and process, and he got it made like that. Like, he had us in a Slack channel, and he was like, hey guys, what do you think if we did a road trip where we pick you up, we fly out there, we call it a Gallos Unidos thing, we pick up Armando and we drive down from LA to Austin, and we film the whole thing, and we'll stop at all these different places and whatever. And I remember telling him, yeah, sure, whatever, because I know what it takes to get a show made, and I was like, that's not going to happen, because Armando was moving at the end of April, start of May, and he pitched this at like the end of March, and but by like mid-April we had like approval to do it, and I was like, I have to start paying attention to this now, like what, like
another thing.
And so it was a fun 3-day road trip.
Yeah. Three beautiful big brown boys taken from.
That's how he pitched it in his meeting.
I was in the pitch deck. No, I think I just got lucky because
so cute.
We stopped at the Grand Canyon, right? But like at the very tip, where it's just like a couple feet.
Like that was a joke. Because that's at the border of Arizona and California.
Yeah.
Which is still technically the Grand Canyon, but it's not what you think it is. It's literally a river that's like a part of it. So we would stop there and we'd have a little joke. We stopped in Roswell. We stopped at this ostrich farm. Mm-hmm. We just had all this like really crazy fun, and the nice thing was like, here we are again, and we filmed a lot of it, right? And we made the 3 episodes out of it, and I was really proud of it. I really like the last episode. Armando edited everything together, and it was really, really creatively fulfilling and beautiful, and I was really happy to be a part of it. But like, we did get to have conversations on the road where it was like, we're Hispanic and we're doing this, like we're all doing this, and it's, the things that we found in common and the things that we did in common, and like, San Antonio, Los Angeles, Colombia, like, and the things that we could joke about and everything else, and what it was like working there, and all the crazy stuff that happened in the way, not crazy, but like goofy stuff. Like, we got stopped randomly by Border Patrol outside of White Sands, and like this dude like was an idiot. He was like, they were doing that thing. We're like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and let you go.
First of all, there was a bunch of bags because you see me. Armando's bigger than me in every way, shape, or form. He's like, I think he's 6'5".
Yeah.
So we packed a Honda Civic XL to the brim. So I was sitting in the back seat, and there was just bags covering me. So when the Border Patrol
trunk,
not sus at all.
Yeah. So when the Border Patrol comes to the front and is like, hey, I see you guys are here, and you were like immediately like, here's our badge, here's our production company,
here's what
we're driving through. He's like, oh, everything seems in order, and then he kind of looks in the back and like, oh, there's another one.
What does Armando say? He said, there's another one of you, or he said like, there's a third one, and so he was getting ready. He's like, all right, well, this is the last bit I gotta ask y'all, just because it's protocol. And he looks at Armando and he goes, "What country are you from?" And he goes, "United States." And he looks at me and I was like, "United States." And then he looks at Armando and at Santiago, and Santiago goes, "United States." And then we were like, "Shut up. Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "All right, get out of here." And we took off, and like, we didn't get 10 feet down the road for Armando and we're like, what are you doing? Don't give that man a chance to talk to you anymore. And it just goes to show the difference of growing up at different places. Growing up in Colombia, he was like, "What's the big deal? It's a cop." And I was like, that was very fun. That was interesting. Because again, now here we are talking about our differences and all this, and it was like, that is not the normal response for a lot of kids who grew up here to do that, especially if you're of color. And so he was a very naive baby bird about that, and we were just talking the whole way, and that was right before we got to the giant pistachio in Alamogordo, and then we went to Roswell that night. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of interesting stuff.
Which, if you're in Roswell, best Applebee's ever.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was the only one open till like 2 a.m. Only place on the main drive. It was Friday night, so it's not like it was like a Monday. And the only place open that late, because we got in like at 11 o'clock at night, and I remember it was a road trip, right? So Armando goes, "I just want to sit down and eat something with a knife and a fork," instead of like on the road. So that was the only place that was open, and so we went, and it was surprisingly good, and maybe it was just what we needed at the time, and we had a good time, and it was fun.
That sounds so chaotic. That's crazy.
It was a nightmare, but then we made it, and it was great, and it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm really proud of the thing that we came out, the episodes that came out of it. It was 3 shows, and you can find them on YouTube and RTTV for as long as that exists.
Do you know, is that just going to be up, or it should, right?
I believe, depending on ownership, right? Because everything's a brand, so whoever picks it up.
Yeah.
I think the default is the things that can live on YouTube will stay on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just be monitored here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't think the plan is to take everything down and just kind of hide and bury it, so that.
Yeah, and I think just to wrap that up, I think my favorite thing was our last live stream. That's the one we got to have Elian,
the
mariachis. It was just, if you look at that last live stream, and probably it'll only matter to us, but if you look at our first live stream, you can tell how much we grew, how much we learned, how successful we became at what we wanted to do with this. Because that first one was like at another location, because it was during the pandemic and we didn't have everything set up, and it was very amateur, but we had our hearts out there and we talked a lot about Latin stuff, and we were able to just do enough. And then the second one was a big improvement, and then the third one, the last one that we did, was just an amazingly large production. And like he said, we had like games, and we had conversations, and we had all these things that were Latin based and Latin leaning and reflective, and we had a lot of fun. And then we ended it with a cook-off between one of his kids, Sammy and Armando, and then we ended it with mariachis, and it was just this big thing, and it was a lot. Like I said, you could see how much we grew, and I was really proud of that. I honestly, I don't want to say it's not a good thing that we're shutting down, but we had no clue what we would have done for another fourth year. We were just like, I don't know what we do now to top that.
Saved you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that it ended on such a high.
It did, yeah.
That and the Spy Kids thing was crazy cool.
Yeah, the Spy Kids thing, we were able to do that. So all of those things are things that we couldn't have done without the money that was given to our group individually.
So impressive and so amazing. And like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like people that watch and absorb and kind of comment like, oh, but what about this? Which is important and super valid, but it's also like, that's not normal. It's not normal to give anyone that platform, especially for Hispanic Heritage Month is something I feel like that only now is like becoming a thing. It really wasn't even a thing.
And I guess if I can add one more, because she's not here anymore, I think Sage would say, and the thing that I'm most proud of, is she pitched. So RTX was the thing that we used to have, which was our big convention at the convention center for fans and everything. And she pitched a Latinas in Animation panel to us. And she was a leader, but she was like, "Do you think we could do that?" And we were like, "I have no clue." But I was like, "Yeah, we can do that." And we had to figure out how to throw a panel, how to fly panelists out here. I mean, we had people who were like, I'm so sorry I forget her name, but she created Santiago of the Seas on Nickelodeon. We had some voice actresses from Rooster Teeth and from some movies and Netflix movies and a lot of people, Latinas that were in the animation, they were the panel, and Sage hosted it. And I remember they put us in at like 10 in the morning at a hotel that wasn't at the convention center. And I remember telling them, I was like, guys, I don't know who's going to show up, but it doesn't matter. If one kid's here, that's great.
Yeah.
And we had like 35, 40 people. And
oh my God.
We had a Q&A section afterwards, and like we had to stop because there was too many people asking, and we had to get out. And so I think she would always say that, but I'm also very proud of that. Like we were able to do something really, really important because again, inclusivity is not just what we think is important. It's what other people would bring to the table and say, I want to try this.
That's so cool. That makes my heart really happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys hadn't been not confined by the Rooster Teeth name, is there another animal you would have chosen for your Hispanic, Latino, Gallos Unidos world?
I don't know. I feel like all the names of the BRGs were kind of like in some ways relevant to.
But if
had
it
rooster
didn't
in it.
have to have a rooster in it,
what else would we?
is there another animal?
Is there like a name that I love saying in Spanish? La araña is like kind of, I don't just
Las
like that name.
arañas.
Yeah. I know spiders are, but I love the word la araña. What else?
Did you watch Madam Web?
Hey, I had a great time watching Madam Web. Personally, I thought it was a girly pop fun little time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's probably the only thing that would guide me is like
I don't think it would have had the same impact.
But
honest.
that's the only thing that would have guided me is, do I like saying this word in Spanish or something?
That's it.
Yeah, because I like
You
right
would have
on
been
the spot.
like a pack animal, like something that's better together. Maybe ants, actually. Maybe ants instead.
Yeah.
Huh.
Javelinas. My parents are from Uvalde, and so we have close ties to that school and everything.
I'm so sorry.
But But Uvalde their mascot is the Coyotes, and so the Lobos is a thing. So I would always like kind of as a thing as a default.
It's in Texas. That could have also worked.
Yeah, Los Lobos.
Wait, Lobos is wolf.
Oh yeah, it is wolf.
That's what the female. Well, they call I know, but they call them the Lady Lobos over for the female teams in Uvalde.
Just okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was just
So Gallos Unidos was the way. I'm glad.
So it's funny. There was a razor edge where there was a razor edge where we didn't get shut down, and Gallos Unidos would have gotten folded into Warner Brothers DEI. All of us would have gotten folded into Warner Brothers DEI initiatives, which would have given us maybe some more strength in what we were able to accomplish, because both financially and with exposure. But the plan, I think, was we might have had to lose the name Gallos Unidos, and I remember that was the only thing that I was like, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, lose our identity.
Yeah, because I feel like we worked really hard.
That's so dystopian.
At least in Austin, I think we built up, and for the Rooster Teeth fans and community, I think we built up a thing where Gallos Unidos meant something.
Yeah,
and that's also something that I'm proud of. And like with y'all, working with y'all has been really fantastic, because we just wanted to always support y'all, but y'all are very much like always, like Gallos Unidos. So it was important to us. Like,
No. Oh, I love that. So you guys were on you guys had a big part in a very big YouTube historic moment. Are there? Do you guys watch YouTube? What do you watch?
The only thing I have to for my job.
He has to. we watch. You watch YouTube, yeah.
What corners of YouTube right now are you guys on?
I'm on a lot of cooking videos, because I started cooking during the pandemic. He cooks a different. I feel like he smoked meats a lot more than
I smoked meats yesterday.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and I do all kinds of cooking. I love cooking, and then there's a lot of like.
I love
humor
YouTube,
that we have to like. I'll tell you, working at Rooster Teeth is a company, and it's not just an entertainment company. It's the weirdest, like in a fun way, but it's like we just have to be so in tune with a lot of things that are going on socially and commercially. So a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of like, the joke about Madam Web is funny, because we could go back and talk about like what that was like in the office, because it's just anytime there's a big pop culture thing, it's in the office. It's also in the office, because we also do skew young with employees. Like I feel like even though I'm 40 now, I feel a lot younger, because I get to talk to people all the time that are like, this is the new trend, this is the new social thing, this is whatever. And I talk to my friends and people that are my age outside of that, and they have like, I feel like, what's going on? What's that about? Like, what's the TikTok? And so, that's where I guess we reside on YouTube.
Cooking,
and then just like, like a lot of comedy videos, creator videos.
skateboarding for me. Since
Yeah, I'm skateboarding. I like a lot of movie trailers and stuff like that. So
recently, I've been watching this guy because I love fishing. This is something I grew up in. Laura Caldas is a fishing town. Like that's what we're known
cool.
from. This guy's just like, I'm gonna go to Dollar General. I'm gonna spend $100. I'm gonna survive on an island for 100 days.
What?
It's like, what is? And he's like, I built a pirate ship. And I went through Lake Michigan from top to bottom. I was like, what is this man doing? And he's like, and I fish. It's like, that's how I got him. It's like, I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
He's just like,
that's what I mean. Like just weird. I love really weird.
Yeah, what are you watching?
I really like restorations. There's this guy named My Mechanics. He's the top tier. I could tier the restoration channels on YouTube.
His group tiers a bunch of the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like his kids, like they go with, I mean, maybe it's I don't know how old you're, but it's a younger thing, but they just tiered Disney.
And he did every Disney Channel original musical.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, and he tiered them.
God.
He tiered them, and he explained them, and he ended
Was
up.
High School Musical or Camp Rock #1?
High School Musical was, but he ended up like he had 12 outfit changes that he lost a layer every time, and he ended up in the shorts and the jersey for the High School Musical. Yeah.
I have too many thoughts.
Yeah.
But that's valid. That's very valid. And like for people that say it's not, it is the top one. I'm sorry. It's what made Disney Channel Disney Channel.
I'm sorry, Lemon Mouth?
Okay, Lemon Mouth is amazing. Okay, I will say also Let It Shine.
Let It Shine. He keeps telling me. Sammy told me if I was only going to watch one.
Oh,
to
I've
watch
been trying
that
to
one.
make my boyfriend watch it for years.
Yeah.
I have the entire soundtrack.
He was like,
I know
if there's only
the
one.
rap battle by heart. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You might be a busboy, but you just got served. Come on. It's so good. Too good.
Yeah.
Wow. That really got something in me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was too good. Okay. Back to serious, sad representation. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But can I ask you real quick? What YouTube do you consider the thing that we were part of that was like a big historic thing?
Well, just in general, being a part of Rooster Teeth is such YouTube historic. Like, I mean, when Philip DeFranco talks about you guys, kind of, it gave very but it gave very clever news, sort of like clever.
Yeah, there was a
vibes,
lot of clever
but
things
without
that we did.
but without a lot of the bad, worse things about that.
Yeah. We had our
but
moments.
yeah, it's so the fact that you guys had that is like, and it's crazy. I don't know. I just, in my head, I grew up knowing my entire life about Rooster Teeth in different ways and different forms, from like Ruby to like to the YouTube stuff to like the gaming stuff, and like my boyfriend loves the Let's Plays that you guys did, and so like, and it's just like.
Shout out to the last Red vs. Blue season that's coming out still.
Yeah.
Hey,
I got to do the fight choreography for the last thing. So.
That's so cool.
And then motion
so
capture.
cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So
like being in front of you guys is like the coolest, because in my head I'm like, oh my God, like it's just like grown up in different ways. But I am curious, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there are kids listening to this that are like, how do I become you? And to that, I would want you guys to answer that, because I'm also that kid wanting to know how to become you guys. Like, is it going to school? Is it like knowing the right people? Is it like, oh, I took this chance on this creative thing?
What do you think?
For me, coming from Columbia to an American school system, where I did go to college, but I went to an accelerated program because I wanted to get out. I was like in and out. I want to get out in 2 years.
Wow.
I learned very quickly. It's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Right. And I immediately started making friends at Rooster Teeth when I wanted to work here. And it was one person that I just bonded over where we went to school. I was like, hey, just give me your resume. You look like a nice person. He gave it over to the hiring manager, and then they called me, and I took it off from there. But I think it's just as hard to get in the door than it is to move up in the ladder. Ooh. And for me, learning very early on that is saying yes to a lot of things, just for exposure, and just like, hey, this might be hard, but other people have figured it out. I could figure it out, and if I can't figure it out, I'll ask and work with other people to figure it out. And then for me as well, it was understanding that like sometimes I got to take a step down or back to move forward, and that's what I did with animation. I was like, I took a step back from being a producer to be an executive assistant, but I knew that was going to get me farther and give me more exposure than if I just stuck around.
And that was important. I think it's important for you because you were Jordan's assistant.
Yeah.
So going back to him as a GM, I think that was massively helpful in you being able to understand what that's like to like. I always joke with him that I'm in the production track and he's in the executive track because he really like being in charge of a channel is a really big accomplishment, and I feel like part of that was because he had this inside communication with Jordan where he's able to probably either ask him or like just see the process of somebody who's been really successful and how they run a company. So I think that's really important too. So even though you might have seen it as a step back, when I met you when we first started Guys This, I always saw it as like that's somebody who's got their ear like where it needs to be, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about Juan, where he's like, he's an intern, but he's like, I want to learn about how to do audio. I want to learn how to run the cameras. I want to learn how to run. It's like that guy knows that he's going to end up somewhere. He wants to make sure he's ready for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I would say, so there's a bit of that in my path. I would say persistence is a big thing. I joke about being, I basically, my job on paper at Rooster Teeth was to run the equipment room. Both.
That's cool.
So all of this, like I know all of this stuff. Like all this stuff is very familiar to me.
What's that camera?
That's a Blackmagic camera.
What's that camera?
That's a Blackmagic system. This whole thing is Blackmagic.
What is a square called?
That's just a cover box, but those are Shure SM58 mics.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're about $400. These are about $400 pop.
You see, brought to you guys. Latinitas quality.
Yeah, no, they are quality. They're what everybody uses on, like Joe Rogan uses them on his podcast. A lot of other people use
they're
them
like,
on
I
their
mean, not to that, but
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
But anyway, so like my knowledge base was that. So both at the University of Texas, because I worked there for 7 years, not just the University of Texas, but Megalomedia, that company, and then Rooster Teeth. On paper, again, my job was the equipment room, managing it, and my creative outlet, my fulfillment was doing like stunts on the side and showing up on other movies and things like that. And part of me always felt this kind of like a bit of like, well, it's not exactly what I wanted to be doing, but it's where I got my degree and everything was the equipment stuff. So but I never gave up on it because I always wanted to be in film. And I know if nothing else, creativity, the film industry, media, I could not work a normal 9 to 5 in a cubicle. And no offense to anybody who can, I can't.
Yeah.
And so even if I might have felt that where I was not where I thought I wanted to be, I never gave up on working here. I never gave up on the job. And when I went to Rooster Teeth, what Santiago was saying, like I did see that there was a possibility to move around and do different things, even if the truth of the matter is you do have to work at it. You have to work hard at like changing your stripes, right? And like how you grow and how do you change but I wouldn't have been there if I had been like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I kept at it. And when presented the options to not just lead Guys This, but as a producer, I'm also a producer for a lot of different shows and live events and like our live streams. It was kind of what he was saying is like when somebody gives you an opportunity or a challenge, I did say yes, even if like with Sage and like, how do you put a panel on? I don't know, but we figured it out, and now I know how to put a panel on.
And now it's on your resume. I put a panel on.
And so all of these things are things where persistence and saying yes, and the other part of that is like being in that department or the equipment for like almost 20 years now. There are people that I worked with at UT that were students, and now they work with me at Rooster Teeth, and like I know I have so many connections in Austin throughout the film industry because I just stayed the course and worked a job and that was a part of this industry, even if it maybe not was what I saw myself at. And I'm very proud of where I've been able to move and do something that's a lot more creative and end up where I am.
Yeah, no, I mean, based on my experience, all of that is very, very true. And I hope if anyone's listening, they're really, really, really taking note. Something my mom always says is that even if you don't think anyone's watching, someone is, and someone sees you saying yes and sees you doing all that stuff. So that's really good advice. I want to end it with just shout out what you guys are going to be doing now that your lives are changing.
Well, like I said, I'm doing that last bit of Red vs. Blue comes out. That's a really cool thing to be a part of because Red vs. Blue was the flagship that started
history.
Yeah, and to be able to wrap it up and do the final choreography for all the final fights and stuff, and that's really cool. Going forward, I don't know. Like we'll see what happens. I know I want to keep producing. I want to keep working in this industry. Like I said, I can't see myself anywhere else, and I want to continue in whatever way I can. I mean, I know that I'm a part of the board for the advisory council for Latinitas, but I want to keep helping grow diversity initiatives, and not just for Latinos, but like we're everybody, all the BRG leaders at Rooster Teeth help each other out, and we show up to each other's functions, and we include everybody. And so I want to keep supporting as many DEI initiatives as I can wherever I'm at.
Yeah. And what about you, Santiago?
Similar vote, where it's like I'm seeing, as we wrap up, where things end, but still gonna try to support Best Friends Today as much as I can, see where they end up, and hey, if they still want me to manage them, I'm happy to come with. So just seeing them grow, who knows? That's gonna be multi-million subscribed channel in like 2-3 years. So being there from the start is just very fulfilling.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you guys. And just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking your time. It has been lovely talking to you guys.
And it's been our pleasure to work with Latinos. Yes. If that's one thing I can say is like going back to trying to figure out how we could be the most impactful. We looked around and we talked, and a lot of people said Latinos was something that we should join up with. And so most of our merch sales for those first 3 years of like our jerseys and everything else went to Latinos. And we had the opportunity every year to reassess, and I think we were both like, this is just a really worthwhile organization and nonprofit, and it really does mean a lot to us to support y'all. So just shout out to y'all, and hopefully everybody listening and whatever keeps supporting y'all.
Thank you guys so much, and I'll film like a little outro after. But I just thank you guys so much. This has been like the coolest thing ever. I had so many questions, but I just talking to you guys was like, it's been super cool. I don't know how to. I guess we get out, and I think I think someone needs to use the studio now. Ever? Yes. Okay. Are we still recording? Or are we paused?